Anybody from Costa Rica? Anybody? Panama, right? From Panama.
Okay, cool.
So close by. And,
I have been to Panama.
and she's coming to us all the way from Tennessee, but she lives in
I live in Costa Rica.
Costa Rica.
Yes.
And if you speak Spanish, La Lengua de Cielo, you can speak with her. You can speak with her after the meeting. But this meeting will be in English for the most part.
Yes.
I also want to introduce you Mike. Mike, come on up here real quick. This is Mike Carducci. And Yaneesha, what's your last name?
My name is Yaneesha Wanchope.
Wanchope. Okay.
Wanchope.
And your middle name is?
Giandra.
Giandra. And my wife is right here. Her name's Triandra.
Triandra.
So anyhow, so these are both speakers with the ministry called Coming Out Ministries. And I know that there was some confusion when we first told the church we're going to bring this ministry in. You folks thought that because of that phrase that perhaps this is in celebration and promotion of the LGBTQ agenda. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is in promotion of Jesus Christ. All right? That's the only agenda this church has, is that Jesus be Lord of all. Amen? But these two individuals have incredible lived experiences, stories to tell about what Jesus has done for them. And so without any further ado, Mike is one of the associate speakers, and so is Yaneesha. And tonight, Yaneesha, I think, is going to mainly speak to us, correct?
Yes, I was
And we are
speaking
delighted
tonight.
to have you. So
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Awesome. Let me just bring my laptop over here. Okay, so let me turn this on. Okay, so the title of my presentation today is What I Wish My Parents Knew. What I'm going to share with you guys today, I have never shared with my parents before, and you know, as I was putting it together, I was actually very emotional because I had to, you know, like relive all of what I wish I could say to them, but I have not said to them. So if I get emotional with you guys today, just bear with me. So as Pastor Ben mentioned, I am from Costa Rica, but I was raised in the United States of America. At the age of 4, we moved to Boston, and we lived there for 5 years, and then Georgia for 6 years. So I lived in the U.S. for 11 years now. And at the age of 15, my parents decided that they wanted to move back to Costa Rica. But this is my family. My mom and dad had me when they were 17 years old. They were very young. They had a lot of fun in high school. And they had me at age 17, and then at age, like a year later, they had my brother. So it's just been the 4 of us for the most part. When we moved to Boston, I remember that, you know, my mom, as a young age, well, ever since I was 8, that's when I first remembered, she had been struggling with depression. I didn't know that's what it was at that time, but she was very emotionally unavailable. Like she would always be in her room by herself. I remember this one day when I went in her room because, you know, like I wanted to see what my mom was doing to be with her. And she said, as soon as I went in there, she said, "I want to be alone right now. Can you please leave and shut the door?" And so like I noticed that, you know, something was off with her at age 8. I couldn't understand that that was depression, but I just knew that she wasn't around much. And so my grandma made sure that my brother and I could say that we had a good childhood, and we did. She was the one to take us out. You know, she took us to beaches, to different parks and circuses, museums, and we had an amazing time with my grandmother. So I appreciate her a lot for that. But something was going on with me, and I didn't understand exactly what it was. At the age of 8, I was in the 5th or 6th grade, and my teacher, she would bring her kids to school with her. They were like 17 or 18 years old. And I remember like all of my classmates, like my friends, they would be so mesmerized by her son, and you know, they were talking about like how cute he was, and you know, like just admiring how cute this young man was. And I was just like infatuated with her daughter. I just kept staring at her daughter, and I could not understand why it is that, you know, everybody else was attracted to her son, but I was attracted to her daughter. And I just knew that I was different. I didn't know of anybody who had the same feelings that I did at that time. And so I just kept it to myself. I didn't feel like I could tell my parents about it because I was raised in an Adventist home, and my parents were very, very, very religious. They were very strict, very overprotective, and they always made sure, you know, like when we woke up in the morning, we had worship, and before going to bed, we had worship. We were in church all day on Saturday. If there was church or we could, you know, like a prayer session going on, like on a Wednesday, we were also there, and on a Friday, we were also there. So I knew that I somehow knew that, you know, what I was feeling was wrong, and I felt like that I would get in trouble for it if I told somebody about it, so I just kept it to myself. As I got older, at the age of 12, we moved to Georgia, and there I met my best friend, and I was very fond of her. She understood me. I felt like I could open up with her, and I was also like physically attracted to her as well. I remember the first time I saw her, I told her, well, I didn't say anything to her, but I thought to myself, you know, I really like this person. I want her to be my friend, so I'm going to try my best to have her like me as well. I never said that to her or anybody. I just kept it to myself. And so I remember when, you know, she would share with me that she was attracted to a boy that was in our class, like I would feel like jealous about it and sad about it. I would keep it to myself though, and you know, those feelings were just suppressed, but I remember there was this one time where my dad, we were at church. We had like an AY youth type activity happening after sundown one day at church, and all of the kids were in the gym playing, and my best friend and I, we were at a different section of the church just talking. Nothing ever happened between her and I, but we were just separated from everybody else, having like our little girls talk moment. And it seemed as though my dad had been looking for us for a very long time. So when he finally found me, he was like enraged, and he grabbed me by my arm and like dragged me out of the church and threw me in the van where my mom and my brother were already waiting for me. And he was like, I don't understand why you two are always like so together. What is it? What's going on? Are you guys lesbians? But the way I'm saying it now, I'm saying it in a peaceful, relaxed manner compared to the way he went about it. So I was grounded. I wasn't allowed to speak to her ever again. I was in the church choir, and they took me out of the choir because she was also in the choir. And they took me out of that Adventist academy that I was in, and I was now homeschooled. So I wasn't allowed to be near her, talk to her, or anything. And I honestly felt like I was in a jail, like we didn't have a conversation about anything. Nobody asked me how I was feeling. Nobody like tried to understand what was going on with me. I didn't even know what was going on with me, so when he asked me that question, I couldn't even like respond because I didn't even know that word existed, to be honest. Like I thought like I was just this rare human being that had these feelings and that nobody else was going through anything similar. So what did I do? Well, I decided to you know, act on these feelings in a way where they could not find out, because I knew if they would find out, I would be in trouble. After what had happened, after that incident where he was enraged asking if I was a lesbian, I knew that was my confirmation that I had made the right choice of not saying anything, and it was better to not, you know, just don't say anything, because I felt like it would make matters worse. So there was this online, this online chat kind of situation that I got myself involved in. So I was to create an avatar on that online platform. You could be whatever you wanted to be. So instead of creating a male account, instead of creating a female account, I created a male account. I was 12 years old at the time, so I would talk to these women online, and I would pretend to be a 26-year-old man, and I was actually a 12-year-old girl. And so that's how I was able to act out on my feelings without my parents learning, like knowing this about me. How did I do this? Well, I just simply waited for them to go to bed, and I would get up at midnight when I knew that they were totally knocked out. And I would get the laptop, like there was a rule where we could have no electronics in the room. So all of the electronics were kept in the kitchen at night. So I would get up at 12 p.m., go get the laptop and the phone, and I would either talk to my best friend that I wasn't allowed to speak to, or stay up for hours on this online platform, like having these relationships with these women. And over time, like these women would like eventually fall in love with me, and like they would want to like meet me in person, or like have a phone call or a video call. And I would I would like lie to them, like make something up, and like find a reason to break up with them to start the process all over with somebody else. So I did that from the age of like 12 to 18, 19. As soon as we moved back to Costa Rica, that's when I was 15 years old. My parents got divorced, and my dad was very distraught about the divorce. That was like the loneliest part of my life, because he was there, but he wasn't there. Like if he was home, he would be like, I would hear him like praying and crying to God, asking God to like relieve him from this pain. And but it was horrible for me. I didn't like to be at home or at school, because I got bullied at school a lot for not knowing Spanish anymore. When I moved back to Costa Rica, I didn't know Spanish. I had to relearn it. My grades were horrible, because since I didn't know the language, it was hard for me to understand what they were trying to teach me. And then I didn't make any friends because I didn't know the language. And like he would only give me like bus fare money. We were vegan at the time. Well, he was vegan, but he made me go vegan because I was living with him. So like the food that he made, like, do any of you, like, have any of you like been vegan for like a long time? Years? Okay. So you know that vegan food back in the day wasn't like it was now. So it was ugly. It was ugly and disgusting. So I'm actually vegan now, though. I've been vegan for 7 years now, but at that time, I didn't want it. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want any of it, because my dad just showed up one day and said, we're vegan now. This is what's going to happen, period. So I didn't care to be vegan. I just went with it because I had to. So, my dad would cook, but it was ugly food, and so I remember I brought that to school one day, and I got bullied for it too. So I decided not to bring food anymore, because I didn't want to add another reason to be bullied by. And so what I would do is I would wait for like my classmates to finish their food, and if there were any leftovers, they would give it to me. And so they called me a trash can, because they gave me like all their trash. So I just, like, new reasons to be bullied just kept coming up. And I spent most of my school hours in the counselor's office, because one of the teachers like noticed how bad that I was being bullied, so she told me to go speak to the counselor. And at the counselor's office, she actually wanted to call like Child Protective Services like on my dad, because I went into detail of like a lot of things that were happening. And like he was just like very aggressive, and like he hit me one time, and like he would call like my mom, my parents split up because of unfaithfulness, so like he would call her names and stuff like that to me, and like be aggressive towards me. I've honestly felt like all my life that that he like takes out whatever he has going with my mom on me. So like I would tell the counselor like everything that would go on, and like she wanted to call Child Protective Services, but I told her not. I actually begged her not to, because I knew that he was going through that divorce and it was hard for him, so I didn't want to add like something else onto his burden. So I just kept that to myself, and I told myself that as soon as high school was over, I was going to move out immediately. And that's exactly what I did. When I was 18, I graduated, and I got a job at Hewlett-Packard, and there I met one of my best guy friends at the time, with him, it was it was happiness. Like I could speak to him about anything, like he would be there to listen. I had fun with him. And to move in with him, I actually lied to my dad and told him that I was moving in with a girl because I knew that if I told him I was moving in with a guy, he wouldn't let me. And he would also not let me because this was a gay man. So I kept that information to myself. But with this guy, I was able to, express and tell him everything that I had been feeling. It was the first time I actually said it out loud. And he listened, he was there for me. He helped me with everything I needed. Emotionally, he was emotionally available, something, that I did not find at home. And so with him, it was wonderful. We would go out to parties every weekend. And I just felt like I finally had found somebody that understood me. I never felt like I could come out to my parents or say anything to them about it because I knew how homophobic the church can be sometimes. And I didn't want to get bullied by the church either. As you can see, there was this, I took this picture that I found. This is actually outside of a church, and it says gays and lesbians are disgraces to humanity, and they they put a Bible verse to defend that. And my perception of church has always been that, I felt like I didn't belong in church anymore. When my dad found out that I was gay, he told me that he wouldn't ever be proud of me for anything that I ever did in life because I was gay. And so that's when I decided that I didn't want anything to do with God, because I felt like if my dad was someone who was just so always in church, always reading Spirit of Prophecy and Ellen White and just always praying, and it seemed like he had a strong connection with God, so I felt like that's what God felt about me. So I said, I don't want it anymore. I'm not going back to church, and I'm just gonna live my life. But honestly, and we never had a conversation. It was just him dictating and saying, he went on this long speech, and that's what he ended the speech with, saying he wouldn't be proud of me anymore. And that hurt, and it still hurts because I felt devalued. I felt I wasn't, I didn't, I don't know, I was a piece of trash who has no value now because of these feelings that, I didn't ask to have them. I didn't want to be like this. There were times where I would pray and yearn and plead to God, can you please take this away? I feel like life is not fair. I didn't ask to be like this. It's not like I'm choosing to have these feelings. They just show up, and it's frustrating, and I felt like I didn't have a way out. When I started reading the Bible, I realized, and what I would have loved for my dad to say or to affirm to me, would be what God later said to me, which is found in Jeremiah 29, verse 11 and 13. It says, "For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. Then ye shall call upon me, and ye shall go and pray unto me, and I will hearken unto you. And ye shall seek me and find me when ye shall search for me with all of your heart." If I had known that this text existed, if someone would have shared that to me, tried to have a conversation, sit down and talk to me, tell me that, Jesus can help you, we still love you, I'm here for you, I want to be here for you. Jesus wants to give you an expected end. He wants to give you a happy ending. If I would have someone just come and with a loving heart, talk to me as a person who still has value, I feel like that would have been such a game changer. And I probably wouldn't have gone through any of what I did. I'm not blaming anything on them. I'm not blaming them for, the decisions that I chose, the life that I chose to live. I was 18 at the time. I was an adult. So I was now responsible for my actions, right? They made sure that, they shared the Bible with me. I knew who Jesus was. And they did what they could with the information that they knew. So I appreciate that for them, but, this is why I'm sharing this with you all today, because, I feel like it could have been done better. I was also going through what's called gender dysphoria, and I was very depressed and very anxious. If you guys don't know what that means, I'll read it to you. It says, gender dysphoria is a term that describes a sense of unease that a person may have because of a mismatch between their biological sex and their gender identity. This sense of unease or dissatisfaction may be so intense it can lead to depression and anxiety and have a harmful impact on daily life. I remember this one time because, later as an adult when I got professional help, she asked me how comes I chose to be a masculine lesbian. You guys are gonna see what I used to look like. Why did you choose to be a masculine lesbian and not a feminine lesbian? Why did you feel the need to take on a role of a man? I remember I have two reasons for that. One, because I remember there was this one time where my mom was affectionate towards me. She hugged me and tucked me in one night and told me that she loved me. And I appreciated that moment so much. And the thought that went in my mind was, one day I want to be with a woman just like my mom. Because I wasn't used to her being like that. So when she did give it to me that one time, I just went with it a whole different way, you know what I mean? So that was one reason, and then the second reason was I remember my mom tried to be affectionate with my dad multiple times, but there was this one time where she hugged him and he didn't return the hug. And my thought when I saw that was one day I'm gonna treat these women the way that they deserve to be treated. So I've felt that, I needed to be a protector. I needed to be strong because nobody was going to be strong for me. I had to do it for myself and for these other women, right? So my escape was at a younger age, social media, because remember I mentioned how I was chatting with these women online. Social media was where I found people to listen to. Social media is where I found friends. Social media is where I felt I belonged. Social media is where I felt like I wasn't judged or condemned. Social media was telling me that the feelings that I had were okay. Social media was showing me how to go about expressing my feelings. Social media was like my best friend. Social media was there for me when my parents or nobody else was there for me. And so as I got older, and now I want to express myself in this masculine way, where did I go? Social media, because since social media has always been there for me, social media also helped me and showed me how to transform physically into this internal person that I wanted to express externally. So this was me at 18 years old. Mike thought it was important for me to mention that I was high in this picture to my left. And in the middle at 25 years old was how, that was a transition I made. And then at 27 years old, when I met Christ, I transitioned back. And so when I saw these three pictures next to each other, it was interesting to me. And I was like, wow, I feel like people would look at this and be like what changed? Something had to change, because the change from picture number one to the second one and then to the third, they're very drastic. So something intense must have happened in between, those three pictures. And I would like to share this quote from Ellen White. It's found in The Adventist Home. She says, "The mind of a man or woman does not come down in a moment from purity and holiness to depravity, corruption, and crime. It takes time to transform the human to the divine, or to degrade those formed in the image of God to the brutal or the satanic. By beholding, we become changed." I remember there were two accounts that I would specifically go to on Instagram when I was interested in, changing to this masculine man. There were two specific people that I would always look up to see what they were doing, where they were shopping, how they did their hair, how they talked. I even went to modeling school, and I asked to be put with the guys, and they showed me how to walk on a runway as a man, like how to walk as a guy, and like manly mannerisms and stuff like that. So I was surrounding myself with what I wanted to become, and I eventually got that. She goes on to say, though formed in the image of his maker, man can so educate his mind that sin, which he once loathed, will become pleasant to him. As he ceases to watch and pray, he ceases to guard the castle of his mind, the heart, and engages in sin and crime. So basically, like I said, I didn't want anything to do with God anymore after what my dad told me, and I was just surrounding myself with what I wanted to become. The mind is debased, and it is impossible to elevate it from the corruption while it is being educated to enslave the moral and intellectual powers and bring them in subjection to grosser passions. Constant war against the carnal mind must be maintained, and we must be aided by the refining influence of the grace of God, which will attract the mind upward and habituate it to meditate upon pure and holy things. So, as I met Christ, when I met Christ, I realized, because throughout all of those years when I went about doing what I was doing, living the way that I thought would make me happy, doing what I wanted to do, there was this never-ending ache in my chest of loneliness. And I would try to, take it away with like drugs, alcohol, parties, the women that I was with, but none of it helped. And the only thing that seized that pain, the only thing that helped me was when I started, watching sermons online, when I started studying the Bible on my own. I realized that the hour and a half that I would spend like reading the Bible, that's when that pain would go away. If I wasn't doing that, it was like a constant chest pain, like a constant loneliness, like this void inside of me that I could not get rid of. So that's how I was able to go from the picture you saw at the beginning when I was 18. I got from A to B, from beholding manly things, trying to be like a man, surrounding myself with social media and everything, like drinking everything that I would see on there, eating it, sleeping, like everything was just all about these lesbians that I aspire to be. And at the age of 25, when God spoke to me through the vision that I saw, and as I spent more time with him, that's how I was able to switch from the way you see me at 25 to the way you see me at 27 to the way that you see me now. How many of you here have already heard the story of the vision that God showed me? Okay. Would you like to hear it? Yes. Okay. So, as I mentioned before, I started going to therapy, right? Because it was just the chest pain was uncontrollable. And like it wasn't like anything physical, like heartburn, but it was like more of an emotional thing. I knew it was like like something inside of me that was just unsettling. And I was just sad for no reason. I would just cry while I would be taking a shower, driving to work. I would just cry uncontrollably, and I would try to think to myself, Yaneesha, what's going on? What's happening? Like, can we try to find a reason for your sadness? I could not. So I started going to therapy, and in my first session, my therapist asked me if I believe in God, and I said, yes, I grew up in the church. I do believe in God. She said, and I asked why. She said, because here we include God in all of your sessions. We believe that he's the one that's going to help you, so we pray at the beginning, during, and at the end. And I want to know if you're okay with that. And I said, sure, I don't have a problem with that. So during our sessions, we would pray, and we started unpacking my childhood traumas and, the resentment I had towards both parents, and we started dealing with that. But there was this one day when she prayed, and as we were about to begin, and she asked God to show me what his will was for my life. And, my eyes are closed, and I see the following. So I'm on this cliff. I see the edge of the cliff in a distance, and there's this pressure like behind me, this invisible force that's behind me that's pushing me towards the edge of that cliff. I try to look back and see like what it is that's pushing me to like dodge it and like move. I see nothing, there's nothing there, but there's this thing that's physically pushing me towards the edge of that cliff. So I'm on the edge of the cliff now. My feet are dangling. I'm like hanging from both hands. I try to look down to see if, you know, if I let go, if there would be anything for me to land on. I see nothing. It's pitch black. So I'm crying now in real life. Like I actually feel like I'm scared. I'm terrified. So I'm crying, and I guess she notices, and she's like, Yaneesha, are you seeing something? And I'm like, yeah. She was like, okay, tell me what you see as you're seeing it. So I'm telling her, like, I'm hanging from this cliff. I'm trying to climb back on, and I'm scared. I don't want to let go. She's like, Yaneesha, let's let go. It's fine. I'm like, no, I don't want to let go. I can die. She's like, let go. I'm like, no. And we're like going back and forth. And she's like, we're going to count to 3, and you're going to let go, and it's going to be okay. So she counted to 3. I let go on 3, and I fell. When I fell, I was in this body of water. In the body of water, underneath, I saw this light. So I swim to the light, and when I get to the light, I'm on like I'm on a shore of this beautiful beach. It's the most beautiful beach I had ever seen. And when I get out of the water now, I'm no longer that masculine guy that you saw that I was at 25. I was in a white dress with like long hair, and I was all feminine and stuff, and I was taken aback by that. I keep walking, right? And to my left, I see my husband and my son. And so when I say this to her, she's like, husband? I'm like, yeah, I don't know what that's about, husband. So I see my husband and my son. I don't see their faces. I don't know who they are. But I just knew that they were my family, that they belonged to me. I didn't walk over to them. I keep walking straight. And so I walk into this forest now. And the sky of the forest opens up, and God is there. He looks like he's looking down on me, like all the angels are there. They're flying around, and like everyone's so happy. Like it was just like a party in heaven. And God looks down and he smiles at me, and he says, well done, my good and faithful servant. And yeah, when he said that to me, like I felt like I had accomplished like the highest achievement ever. So the sky closes up. And my vision is now turned towards my family, who's now walking towards me. I still don't see their faces. And I open my eyes now in real life. My therapist is crying, but tears of joy. I'm upset. I don't like any of what I saw, because I didn't go to therapy to change my sexuality or who I was or to be straight or any of that. I went because I was sad and I wanted to be happy. That's not the part I wanted to work on. And, you know, I went to these sessions for 2 years. And in those 2 years, what I appreciated the most was that my therapist did not touch the topic at all. Like, I looked like the way you guys just saw when I would come to these sessions. So it was evident, she knew. But she did not mention nothing about homosexuality. Like, she just dealt with me as a person and like worked on me with what I asked for help with, which is like, I'm depressed. Can you help take this pain away? And so the fact that I got this vision about my homosexuality, the way that I was living, I knew that that was from God, because it was off topic. Like, we hadn't even touched that. So that's when we later unpacked, you know, like why I decided to be more masculine and not a feminine and stuff like that. But she didn't touch the topic herself, and I appreciated her a lot for that, because she made me feel like I was more than a lesbian, right? Because usually Christians just see me as a lesbian, and, you know, that's what when they try to come to me or talk to me about anything, like that's what they want to talk about. And, you know, my aunt is my accountability partner, and so what I have expressed to her is that, like, I'm more, like, can we talk about something else? Like, I have other things going on with my life too, because I remember, you know, and my aunt, I had shunned her away for a very long time, because all she would do was like send me Bible verses or send me videos about people who were gay and now they're not, and stuff like that. And I'm like, we have other things to talk, like, can you ask me how my day was? Like, how was work? Like, am I physically okay? Am I sick? Am I healthy? You know what I mean? And so People sometimes get confused and like don't know how to, reach a person who they know is gay, and like they want to bring them to church. But, if I could give you advice, I would say just treat them like just a regular person. Like we all have sins, we all have different things. Like with homosexuals, our sin might be more visible than others, right? If we express it in a certain way. But like we're all going through something. Some might be liars, cheaters, gossipers, right? And God says, those kind of people will not go to heaven either. So it would be nice if, we could just treat everyone with love and respect and, treat us like regular people that we are. So I would like to share a few of the things that I would have appreciated that my parents would have done with me at a young age instead of like raging out and grounding me and just homeschooling me and just trying to overprotect. So, because I feel like that was their attempt to not have me be gay, but evidently it did not work because they tried to restrict me in so many ways, and the harder they tried to do that, the more I acted out and still did what I wanted. So I would have really appreciated if someone would have like sat down and have a conversation with me and talked to me and asked me like, Yaneesha, like what's going on? And had me feel like it was a safe place for me to be open, a place where I knew that if I said something, I wouldn't get in trouble for it, you know what I mean? Because I felt it was very unfair to say, I'm having these feelings and then get grounded for it. Like, it just didn't, like I didn't feel like that was something that I would want to do. So I want to share with you guys here, Isaiah chapter 1 and verse 18, God says, come now and let us reason together. Though your sins may be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they should be as wool. So it would have been nice if someone would come and, have a conversation with me and be honest, like, okay, like, this way of life is according to the Bible, it's not okay, but, God can help us, right? God here is saying that we can come and we can reason together and we can make sense out of it and, and help you with the help of God and just make me feel okay, you know what I mean? I would like to share this video with you guys because I feel like sometimes one of the things that my dad used to say all the time is, for example, he didn't come to, when my parents got divorced, he didn't come to my high school graduation because he didn't want to see my mom. I asked him about it and he said, when you're older, you'll understand. So I said, so does that mean that when I get older, you won't come to my wedding either? And he says, when you're older, you'll understand. I'm 30 years old and I still don't understand. Like I would have, well, I'm 29, I'll be 30 this year. But I would have appreciated if he could explain to me why he was not at my graduation and why he will not be at my wedding. Like, I don't know, I feel like I deserved an explanation. And it could be something personal that, he's dealing with, maybe, because then my mind just goes and thinks about things like, okay, is it because like he's still upset with my mom because of what happened? But then what does that have to do with me? Does that mean he doesn't love me then because he's upset with my mom and then now I don't deserve my dad to be at my graduation or my wedding? And then I think about if I die, would he even be at my funeral because my mom's gonna be at my funeral? And so I would like appreciate if they had, sat me down and explained me more things, because that made me feel like I'm a child, you're an adult, and evidently you're telling me that I'm incapable of reasoning and understanding with whatever it is, whatever the reason is that you're not there for me when I expect you to be. So here's just a video of this cute little boy who was taught how to express his emotions, and he's only 4 years old.
You hurt my feelings by not going outside, so that's why I didn't want to make just a small choice. You know, earlier I couldn't go outside, so I was still a little sad.
Yeah. But that was a consequence.
But after I was a little sad, I was a little bit upset. More than a little.
More than a little upset?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We all get upset sometimes.
Yeah.
We don't get what we want all the time.
Mama also don't. Papa also don't. But it's hard for babies to do that. You know, earlier, baby dropped the plate and Papa got angry at her, and I told Papa to make this. I told Papa to stop breathe slow and make a small choice for Papa.
And then did he do it?
Yeah, but earlier I chose to be a tiny bit mad, but after a while I was okay.
You were okay?
Life
is like that. We get upset, we get mad, we cry.
That's emotions, Mama.
That's emotions, I know. And then we feel better after we cry.
Yep. You do, even when you're upset or angry. Always different kinds of feelings. Even though when you're scared.
That's another emotion.
Yeah, a different kind of emotion. No, I was wrong. Today I had out and do my emotions.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is today.
that's okay.
But
We're learning.
even though when I was that mad, you still love me that so much?
Of course. Always.
Yeah, I love you too.
Isn't that adorable? Yeah, so conversations like that would have been very helpful for me, and I would have enjoyed that so much. And to think that he's only 4 years old, and that was like, I don't even know how to speak like that. Like, I don't know how to express myself like that even now. And, you know, to think that he has already been brought up like that, like what a change it would be in humanity for people to, you know, express what they're really feeling instead of like raging out and like being angry when in reality they're just sad. So I would have appreciated this myself. Also, I would have appreciated positive affirmation. You know, instead of, you know, when my dad found out that I was gay, of him telling me he wouldn't be proud anymore because I was gay, I would have appreciated, like you're still my daughter and I still love you, even though I don't agree with it, like I'm still going to be here for you. I didn't get that, and I would have appreciated it. In Romans 8:38 and 39, it says, "For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord." So Jesus is telling us that we are loved beyond measure, right? Like he still loves us even though we're here in this sinful nature. We're not doing what we're supposed to do, but he still loves us. He came to die for us as sinners. Like that is just, I'm in awe. I would have loved to be comforted and for my parents to be more affectionate with me. I remember growing up, it would be like very awkward to hug my dad. Like even now, like we just have stiff, like awkward hugs. And I would have appreciated that so much. In 2 Corinthians verses 1:3-4, it says, "Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God." In Isaiah 66:13, it says, "Christ promised that as one whom his mother comforted, so will I comfort you." And I got that comfort from God. That's why I decided to change my life, because with God I felt peace, with God I felt happiness, with God I felt loved, with God I felt comforted. There was this one time where I really needed a hug. Like I needed it badly. I woke up that morning and I was just very sad, and I told him, I'm like, God, like, I know you're here, but I need a physical hug right now. Like I need to feel you. That was a Saturday. I went to church and I hadn't seen my godfather in ages. My godfather was there, coincidentally. And he gave me the longest, the hardest hug that I have ever had in my entire life. And it wasn't from anybody, it was my godfather. And so I was just so like impressed by that. Like he heard me this morning, and he didn't send a random person to hug me, he sent my godfather. And I would have appreciated genuine quality time. My mom is very addicted to like social media herself. And I remember there would be like various occasions where I would just want to like watch a movie with her, have a conversation with her, and like she would just always have her phone. So after a while, I just didn't bother anymore. So like genuine quality time wasn't a thing for me. My dad would like, when they had gotten divorced, he would take out my brother and I, but like we would get to the beach or like the pool, and my brother and I would be like playing and hanging out, and he would be like reading a book. Like he was there, but he wasn't there. You know what I mean? So I would have appreciated like genuine quality time. In James chapter 4 and verse 8, it says, draw nigh to God and he will draw nigh to you. And I don't know about you guys, but quality time with God feels amazing. And I do it as often as I can. And if you guys can do it a lot with, you know, with your kids, I'm pretty sure they would appreciate it, because I would have as well. And I would just like to end with this quote from Ellen G. White. It's found in the Review and Herald, and she says, there are many who err and who feel their shame and folly. They look upon their mistake and errors until they are driven almost to desperation. These souls we are not to neglect. When one has to swim against the stream, there is all the force of the current driving him back. Let a helping hand be held out to him, as was the elder brothers to the sinking Peter. Speak to him hopeful words, words that inspire him with courage. Tell him of an almighty hand that will hold him up, of an infinite humanity in Christ that pities him. It is not enough for him to believe in law and force, things that have no pity, and never hear the call for help. He needs to clasp a hand that is warm, to trust in a heart full of tenderness. Keep his mind stayed on the thought of the divine helper ever beside him, ever looking upon him with pitying love. Bid him think of a father's heart that ever grieves over sin, of a father's hand stretched out still, of a father's voice saying, come unto me, and I will give you rest. That's what I heard and received from God. That's why I decided to change. And I feel like as parents, you guys are the example of God's character here on earth. And as you know, as God extends his hand towards all of us and is there to listen to us and spoil us and take care of us and make sure we have everything we need, because we are valued more. He takes care of the grass and the animals and the trees. He loves us dearly. So I just wanted to share this with you guys so that you could have a perspective of a child and love on your kids when you get home. Thank you.